The hour is 7 o'clock having arrived. I'll call the council to order. Let the roll reflect that all council members are present and a quorum has been established. Council, you have before us the minutes of the special city council meeting workshop of October 5th, and you also have the minutes of the regular city council meeting of October 5th as well. Is there any additions or corrections to the minutes of that meeting? Seeing none, they stand approved. Tonight we have Stacy from Tennis Sanitation, who's going to come up to describe to us the quarterly report of the Green Team.
Yes, good evening.
Welcome, Stacy. Glad to have you here.
Thank you. So tonight we have Steve Zion from Boy Scout Troop 503 here to accept their proceeds for the third quarter, $494.10. They collected a total amount of 32.94 tons, so they did a great job.
Wow.
Thank you. Yes, there you go.
Hey, Steve, do you want to say anything about your troop and the project?
Currently, our meeting is going on right now.
Okay.
But on behalf of Troop 503, we want to thank Tennis Sanitation and the City Council for allowing groups like ours to benefit from the Green Team recycling that the city and Tennis has combined, and they do a great job. So,
Thank you, and I know that PAC 503 is involved in a lot of community projects, so we appreciate what you do leading that PAC, or one of the leaders of the PAC, and extend our best wishes to them as well, and thank them for a wonderful job they did.
thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, and Stacy, who do we have coming up next?
We have one more Boy Scout troop.
Okay,
Yep.
that sounds great.
Yes.
Terrific.
Yes,
All right, thank you very much.
And then I've also presented
Oh, yeah.
Melanie with a revenue share check tonight as well.
Okay,
All right, thank you so much.
well, thank you very much. Council, we'll go to item number 5 on our agenda, the council items to be considered. Melanie?
Your Honor and Council, you're asked to add to the agenda an item for some trail repair and replacement within the 2015 budget. We have $25,000 allocated. We have received a bid or quote to complete that, and staff would suggest that it's appropriate for consent agenda, but we would ask that you put it on the agenda nonetheless. Thank you.
Okay, item number 6, consent agenda, council. We have a request. Councilmember Schultz makes a motion to add the 2015 Trail Repair Replacement Program on there, seconded by Councilmember Brox. That motion is now before the, well, excuse me, that's an amendment to it, so let's get a main motion out first. I'll take those two as a main motion, and then also Councilmember Schultz and Councilmember Brox also moves to amend to add this on to the consent agenda. To that amendment, Councilmember Balsanic. I'll move to... We have a motion. I accepted their motion there. Oh, okay. All right. You don't need a motion for the consent agenda? They made a motion to move the consent, and they also made the motion to move the project. Okay. Well, I'm glad you were willing to step up to the plate, Councilmember. All right. To the amendment, to add this on to the consent, is there any further discussion to that amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor of that amendment, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. Consent agenda as amended. That is the main motion before the body. Is there any further discussion to that main motion as amended? Seeing none, all those in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. We'll go to awarding of contracts at public hearing. Our first one is the first floor residential uses in the downtown district. John, welcome to the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. First item we have before you tonight as a public hearing is for an ordinance amendment to the zoning code, chapter 155, relating to first floor residential uses in the DC downtown core zoning district. What I have before you on the screen is a map showing some of the streets that were designated within the Heart of Hastings master plan and corresponding what they were guided for different types of uses. And as you can see with the area here, which is 2nd Street, between Vermilion Street and the railroad tracks, it's designated as what's termed a Main Street. What this means is first floor residential within that area of the guide plan would not be allowed. It should not be something that we would look upon within the zoning code, and the DC zoning code corresponds to the plan. So essentially, plan says no first floor residential. The DC zoning district corresponds to that. However, the downtown core zoning district has an extension of the prohibition all the way over to Eddy Street here. in front of the Hudson Building. So the code that we have currently in place is inconsistent with our plan, and that's the reason why we're bringing this forward tonight for an amendment. As you know, this is a very important site for us with the Hudson Building and the redevelopment plans here for a mixture of residential, which would be on the first floor, as well as a variety of commercial uses, which would be first and second floor within this building. So we did have the Planning Commission hold a public hearing on this, recommended unanimous approval at their September meeting with limited discussion. So we're recommending a change to the code tonight that would allow first-floor residential uses within the downtown core district on this limited area of 2nd Street between Vermillion and Eddy Street. And this is a public hearing. You can hold it at this time, or I can stand for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I will open the public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to speak to this issue on the downtown core? Permitted residential first floor? Anyone here who would like to speak to that issue? Okay. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Council will take that up. What's your wish? Councilmember Alonso makes a motion to approve. Seconded. Councilmember Nelson. That motion is now before the body. Is there further discussion to that motion? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. Next, we go to public hearing. Amend city code, tap rooms, brew pubs, micro distilleries, and cocktail rooms. John?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. This is a public hearing and second reading of an ordinance amendment. We did order the public hearing and considered first reading at the last City Council meeting. I've got a slideshow here which goes through some pictures of what we're looking to do tonight. Essentially, it's a two-part process. One involves the zoning code, which is before you tonight, and the other would involve an amendment to our liquor ordinance, if this is agreeable to the council. Essentially, it would be an allowance for a couple of newer types of alcohol uses within the city that we've seen in other places throughout the Twin Cities and throughout the nation. And that's the allowance of a brew pub, a brewery tap room, or a micro distillery. And I'll go through what those are here in a couple of slides coming up here. First is what we would call a brew pub, a brewery tap room, excuse me. What a brewery tap room is essentially is it's an industrial use. It is a manufacturing facility for beer, and they do, in most cases, in some cases, have a component to it where they have a tap room, which a person could come in and buy the product that is made on site. And so within the couple of slides here, show some examples of what this brewery tap room would be. What's unusual about this circumstance with the breweries is it does have an industrial component to it, but the nature of the facility with the tap room associated with it can fit well into a commercial district and has been done so in a few other places. The one we show here is Stillwater. Got another one here in Excelsior that shows this. This shows an area of about 3,000 square feet altogether, with 50% of that area being the tap room area, the commercial component of it, the remaining being industrial. Another one here in Hopkins showing about 3,000 square feet altogether with the commercial component, but also the industrial component in the back of it. And then Big Wood Brewery in White Bear, a similar type of situations. The types that we've shown here, for the most part, are similar to Hastings in the fact that they have small urban downtown areas, and breweries have opened up within those areas itself. The second thing that we're looking at are brew pubs, which are different from brewery tap rooms. The brew pubs are essentially restaurants that make beer. A tap room doesn't necessarily sell food. What they're primarily involved in is the production of beer, either for sale on site or for sale in liquor stores off-site. Brew pubs are essentially sale on-site facilities. They may have a restaurant, they usually have a restaurant with them, but they also sell beer for patrons and beer to go in growlers as well. So Granite City Foods has a few locations around the Twin Cities. They operate in that fashion. Barley John's in New Brighton's another one. The other facility that we have would be more of an industrial tap room, things that are more of an industrial district. In these circumstances, they may have a production level that does not fit well within a commercial district. The space that they have or the trucking, the production elements are much larger than would typically be in a commercial district. So Has some examples here. You can see this one is almost 11,000 square feet. Lift Bridge in Stillwater about the same. This is within their industrial park. Another one up here in Lino Lakes. Go through here. We also have a component called micro distilleries. A micro distillery is essentially like a tap room, but for spirits. Spirits would be produced on site, sold directly to liquor stores, or could be sold directly to consumers on site as well. Now, there's not as many of these around, but there are a few of them. This is one here in New Richmond, about 9,600 square feet. One in Brooklyn Park, about 2,000 square feet, kind of more of an office area. And then one here in Waconia. There's also a component of this that has what they term a cocktail room. A cocktail room is a place where people can come in, it's like a tasting room, buy spirits in limited quantities from them. So what we're looking at tonight is a couple of changes within our ordinance that would define what these different types of alcohol facilities would be and puts limitations upon where they would operate. So we would add the new definitions for brew pub, brewery tap room, microbrewery tap room within the ordinance itself. Now the difference here, now brew pub, they make it on site. This is a restaurant. We have brewery tap room and microbrewery. A brewery tap room is more of an industrial operation. This is something that's going to be larger in nature, not really consistent with a commercial district. A microbrewery, however, would be something that would be allowed within a commercial district, be it downtown in the downtown core district or C3, C4 areas, which is essentially Vermilion Street and Highway 55. Because of its industrial operation, we did put a limitation upon the size of the production and distribution facility, and that would be for the industrial portion of it. Our original suggestion to the Planning Commission was to limit that to 5,000 square feet based upon some research that we've done with other communities. The Planning Commission did review this and recommended that be increased to 7,500 square feet. So the 7,500 square foot would be for the industrial operation. There would not be any limitation on the size of the patron area, the commercial bar area portion of that. And then we also have micro distillery. Cocktail room has the similar type of restriction placed upon it. So within the zoning districts, these would be special use permits. Within some of the commercial districts, C1, 2, 3, 4, basically Highway 55, Highway 61, downtown. With the change before us, this would be a brew pub, a restaurant that produces beer to sell, a microbrewery tap room that would be a maximum of 7,500 square feet with a tap room on it, and a micro distillery of the same nature would be allowed by special use permit. This again would be reviewed by the Planning Commission and approved by the City Council. Within the I-1, within the industrial district, which is essentially our industrial park, we would allow a brewery tap room, the restaurant facility, or excuse me, the production facility, and the micro distillery with no limitations within it. These are industrial districts. This would be consistent with the manufacturing and operation of other industrial activities within those areas. So that's what I have before you tonight. The Planning Commission did review this on a couple of different occasions. They did vote 6-0 at the September 28th meeting to recommend approval of the ordinance that you see before you tonight. And we'll remind again that the work that's been done here represents only a portion of the work that would need to be done for a facility to be allowed. There would also need to be an amendment to the liquor ordinance itself that we would work on, provided the council is acceptable to the changes under land use. So this is a public hearing. I could stand for any questions, and I'll let you open that now. Thank you.
Thank you, John, for making a complex issue a lot more understandable. I appreciate that. I think what we'll do first, council, is open this up to a public hearing. So I'm going to open up a public hearing. Is there anyone here who would wish to speak to the ordinance changes to amend City Code 155.02 for tap rooms, brew pubs, micro distilleries, and cocktail rooms? Is there anyone here who would like to speak to that particular issue? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Council will take this issue up at this time. What is your wish? Councilmember Nelson?
Thank you, Your Honor. John, just a couple of questions for clarification purposes, because I thought I understood, then I got lost a little bit on the presentation. So the restriction then from for the 7,500, that's in the commercial zone only?
Correct.
So if somebody was to come in the industrial park, want to build one of those, like a 12,000 square footer, they would be allowed to do so in the industrial park only?
That is correct. No restrictions on the
No
size in the
restriction there.
industrial park.
Commercial, now let's say for instance, if commercial, they want to come into the commercial zone, could we allow a larger one by a variance to that? Or would they be would we be stuck here saying 7,500, that's it?
Sure. I think a variance would be difficult to perform in that. I'm looking at Dan as I speak here. I think on a use situation like this, we would not be allowed to grant a variance. So it would be important to set that level to something that we think would be acceptable.
Okay, and the 7,500 square foot certainly does seem acceptable. Based on the slides that you had, it looked like most of them would fit into that. And again, in the commercial, if they were looking for a bigger production facility, then we'd probably have to steer them towards the industrial park.
Exactly.
I would understand. So then, in addition to that, then, I'm trying to get all my thoughts straight here, in the industrial park, then there wouldn't really be a cocktail room, because we wouldn't allow for that in the industrial area. So somebody could come in and build a micro distillery, but not have a cocktail room in the industrial park. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. That certainly helps my clarification, Your Honor. Thank you, John.
Sure. Councilmember Alonji?
Thank you, Your Honor. John, I would assume that whether the space is attached to a residential structure, so for example downtown, is not relevant to the situation we're talking about, operation and just the square footage. What it's attached to or what it's connected to, we don't consider any of these operations to be too dangerous for, near a residential area or anything like that, or there's nothing about the industrial use or anything about the commercial use that anybody finds hazardous in any way, correct?
Councilman, I'm not aware of anything that would be uniquely hazardous about the operation
In the
here.
production, that is, not the drinking
In the production,
necessarily.
yeah. Excuse me, in the production. I've seen other tap room breweries operate in very close proximity to residential areas and in downtown areas.
Okay. My second question, Your Honor, regards you have some, thank you for these, by the way, examples of building sizes and finished square feet toward the end of the packet item here. And I found it all very illustrative, very understandable. Can you give us a sense, my understanding is that, well, never mind my understanding. Can you put into context 7,500 feet as it relates to the former Hudson Sprayers, now called Great Confluence Building? How much of that is 7,500 square feet?
Sure, Councilmember. The entire facility is 100,000 square feet, so that would be a pretty small area. And as you may be aware, that's one of the commercial facilities that the developers are contemplating for that property. And speaking with the developers, it appears that a 4,000 square foot limit on the production is what they'd be looking at. They're cognizant of not wanting to have something too industrial within that area for their building itself.
Okay, so this would allow us to proceed along the lines that we've been talking about, obviously. Just want to make sure that was clear. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Vaughn?
John, quick question, just to confirm, that's, everything on one of these operations is inside the building, correct? Is there ever anything outside the building?
It's a good question. As far as outside the building goes, no. We could set those requirements as well within the special use permit, that any spent product, when talking to other cities, that's one thing that they said maybe sure to keep an eye on is, it is a production facility, there are spent items, make sure that there's spaces for those.
I'll seek a motion. Councilmember Schultz makes a motion to approve. Second by Councilmember Alonji. Motion is now before the body. Is there any additional discussion to the motion? I just want to thank Justin and John for the hard work of putting this together, and council for your work on this. It's kind of can be complex, especially when we're writing basically a new ordinance. But this is something that we're seeing at the legislature all the time because brew pubs are becoming really popular. And the sale of growlers we've heard about in the last legislative session. So I'm glad that we're moving toward this direction, that we've actually had some other cities that we could look at, but it's a growing industry, and I'm glad we're going to have something on the books until, not wait until we have a site plan in front of us. So I want to thank all the staff and council for your fine work on it.
Sure. No, Justin did a tremendous job putting all this together. This is certainly his work, not mine.
Okay, sounds good. All right, council, is there no further discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. Okay, next we have a public hearing and vacation of an easement at Riverwood 7th Edition. John?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. This is a public hearing to vacate a drainage and utility easement located on Woodland Court. This is within the Riverwood subdivision. To give you some context, we've got Riverwood Drive and Village Trail coming south from County Road 47 here, and this is 36th Street in this location. The property itself was owned and developed by Greg Jablonski. You can see the majority of the cul-de-sac consists of twin homes that were platted probably about 10 years ago, built about that time, but there were 4 remaining lots, as you can see here. What Mr. Jablonski proposes is that the drainage and utility easements that were set up with these properties, the way they were originally platted was to have these boxes for the townhomes here, and then the remaining area of the property would be common open space that would be controlled by an association. For that to be changed so that there would be lots created for single-family development. So essentially, these 2 lot boxes here would become a single-family home site, and 3 and 4 over here would be the same thing. So the vacation of easement is necessary in order for him to accomplish that. Now, there's a little bit of history on this. You may recall that in 2012, the City Council was looking at a replat of this townhome during that time. There's some questions that were brought forward by some of the residents who raised concerns about whether this was an appropriate use, converting these from townhome to single family. At that time, Mr. Jablonski stated that they would be preserved as townhomes. Since that time, we've spoken with Mr. Jablonski. He has apparently made contact with some of the residents in that area to see if the change would be acceptable to it. It appears that he found that it would be, in his opinion, so he brought forward the vacation application tonight. As part of that application, it is a public hearing, so we have notified folks of that. I don't believe we've heard any comments as of yet before the meeting, but I did talk to a couple before the meeting tonight who I think want to speak to the issue. So I can stand for any questions, or you can open the public hearing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. Tonight we'll start that. This is a public hearing on the vacation of an easement on Riverwood 7th Edition. I will open up the public hearing. And is there anyone here who wishes to speak to the issue? Okay, please just come to the podium. Give us your name and address for the record. And we're very glad to have you here at the meeting. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. My name's Tom Sheridan. I live at 1123, which would be right next to number 1. I have a big problem with this. If it's a single-family dwelling, it has to match our facade. You know, I don't want to put a 2-story in here. I think our value goes down drastically. I've been in construction for 28 years. I've seen this happen. It'll devalue all of our property by doing this. This is what he did this right behind us. You know, there was supposed to be a berm put in, that never got put in. Trees were supposed to be added, never happened. So before this would go, I would like to see the plans. I would like to see the landscape, the irrigation, so it all matches us. And that's just protection for us, all of us. That's kind of where I sit with this.
And that sounds good. That process would happen later, because what the request is tonight is the easement for a vacation for the easement. Next would be the site plan and the drawings of what these structures would look like, and that would be coming down the road. But before he can do that, he's requesting this easement. So.
But once he gets this easement, that's his first step.
That's his first steps, correct.
So then he wins game plan 1, as far as I'm concerned.
He'll have,
know,
right.
Then we sit we can't come back, you know, and say, no, we're not gonna do this. If you change the easements to a single-family lot.
Well, you know, the council has discretion, and we only handle one issue at a time. Tonight's easements, not a plat.
I
So,
understand that.
So we can only address an issue at a time right now, and that's the issue before the body.
Okay.
And,
Well, I would
you know,
vote against
so-
it.
Okay? All right. Thank you. Did anyone else like to speak? Right. Yep. I agree with you. He should be here. Okay.
My name is Joanne Cobian. I'm the president of the Woodland Townhome Association, which makes up the right-hand, not where Mr. Sheridan lives, or the next one over, but the 8 that starts on Riverwood and goes into Woodland. I was told by Greg that he was going to build 2 single townhomes and 1 double. Now, this doesn't show that, so I don't know if that has anything to do with easements. He's planning on having 3 buildings there. 1 double, like the rest of our townhomes, and 2 singles. Does that change an easement? I don't know. I'm asking.
I'll refer that to our planner, John.
Okay.
I don't know anything preliminary that shows 3 units, just 2 units.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor and city council members and members of the public, I'm not aware, my understanding was he was planning single-family homes, but I could be wrong on that. Now, just a point of clarification on the procedure here tonight. If the vacation of easement were to occur, and it would be a creation of 2 single-family lots, there would not be any other actions required by the city council. There would not be any other site plan review. We don't have a site plan review procedure for single-family homes. So bear that in mind with any review or decisions that you would make tonight.
Okay, can you repeat that, John, one more
Sure.
time?
That there would not be a site plan review for construction of single-family homes on this site.
There would not be.
Would
Okay,
not
so
be,
that's my
correct.
error, there would not be. Okay, and that's understood? Okay, okay. Okay. All right, thank you. You know, one of the things I have a question of what the association is that we have information at one time that Mr. Jablonski indicated that he brought this forward to the association and that the association was supportive of the action. So I just want you to know what we heard, or what was written. Was there ever a vote taken by the association on this matter? Okay, okay. Did he come to a meeting? Can you come as the president, just so we can get this on record? Thank you, Joanne.
He called me on the phone, and he asked me to call the city planner and asked that he could go ahead with the planning to finish off the cul-de-sac.
Okay.
I did. I called the city planner. I said, I'm sure it was the approval of everyone, because we've been wanting that cul-de-sac finished ever since it first started.
So it wasn't your understanding at the time that it'd be 2 single-family homes?
Absolutely not.
Okay, okay, because I
And
think
one
that
of
was,
the other
I think that's the
residents-
confusion.
One of the other residents just told me this morning, after he got this letter, he went directly to Greg, and he asked him, what are you proposing there? And he said, 1 double townhome and 2 single townhomes.
Okay, that would be hard to fit in that space, I think.
So
It's a
I
tight
think
fit.
you better do some investigating.
Well, he has to bring forward plans, and so we haven't seen it either, so we don't know either.
Okay.
John, to your knowledge, he has not brought forward plans?
That is correct. Mr. Mayor, we have not, to my knowledge, received any plans for construction on that property, correct?
Okay. Okay, Councilmember Alangi?
Your Honor, I don't know if you want to wait for the public hearing to close, but there might, my question may inspire additional thoughts from some of the audience members, and so I didn't want to do, I don't know whether you want to take questions now, or if you want to just
Why
have
don't
the
we
public
finish
hearing
the
be
public
clean.
hearing, and then if people want to comment after we have discussion, we'll allow that.
Okay, then I'll
So,
hold. Thank you.
okay, thank you for your deferment. Is there anyone who would like to speak to the issue right now And then we'll deliberate, but I will certainly allow time for more comment, okay? Okay. I will, why don't I just keep on the public hearing open, and we'll have a discussion. And then anyone who wants to speak, we can continue that on. Councilmember Alonji?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll start with you, John, because I normally don't try to question residents. We answer to you, not vice versa. But John, can you help? I think a lot of folks would say that it's counterintuitive that a single-family home would be unwelcome in most neighborhoods. Can you walk us through some of the logic as you understand it? And then, of course, anybody in the audience that would want to come forward, also talk a little bit about your perspective. Of course, wouldn't mind hearing directly from you. I just don't feel comfortable questioning you directly. So, John, just your thoughts on that. In terms of the housing prices, in terms of the permissions that are allowed, I mean, are there reasons why this might be less attractive than intuition would tell us?
Sure. Councilmember, I guess it would really all depend on what would be constructed there. As far as, in most situations, it appears that a primary concern of those in a neighborhood is going to be having a home constructed that's either vastly different or in either design or price from what was constructed there previously. So I think those would likely be the primary concerns that a resident would have. If it was my street, those are the concerns that I think I would have on that one. Mm-hmm. And so I don't have knowledge of what would be constructed on those lots.
And as I think we were going before, because there is, generally speaking, no way to determine like what they use in terms of material, where they place the lots, anything like that, that then contributes to a fear that they could put up, say, severely inexpensive housing that would not meet what most people would consider to be community standards. Do I have that summarized properly?
I would characterize that there would not be any further restrictions on, or any further requirements on minimum values, minimum design standards for these homes other than the single-family home standards we have across the city.
All right, I think I get it. Then my last question is a technical question, not related to the first, which is when I look at that little map there at the bottom, this may have just have been an artifice of graphics. As I look at the red line, the proposed property line, I actually see it cut into where the housing footprint might be. Is that in any way indicative of a possibility of a structure being built across a property line? And how does that work with, wow, thank you, setbacks?
Sure.
My brain's burned out.
I think what this represents here is the existing property setup, the lot boxes that are there. So these would not be platted out.
Okay.
So this square here would essentially go away.
So even if we were to allow it, he would still be bound by setbacks, he would still be bound by other things. Okay, that's fine, doesn't make me love the plan, I just wanted to get that because I saw a big red line there. Thank you, Your Honor. I may have further comment later, but that'll do for now.
Councilmember Schultz.
Thank you. Your Honor, when I read this initial information, I did get a little worried that maybe there had been some miscommunication in terms of the plan and where this might be headed. I hate to use the table word because I think we need more discussion.
That's the word I was going to use, but
Okay.
I'll come to my idea later.
Okay, but my thought was, obviously we need more information because people have been told 2 or 3 different things and don't know exactly what to expect. I'm certainly not going to vote to support this because how could you possibly vote to support this when you have no idea what's going into the neighborhood against the wishes of the people who live there? It's just not, it's not feasible. So, I mean, my suggestion is we just deny it and move on, and Mr. Jablonski's going to have to figure it out. Or we table it and we try to figure out if we can get more information that makes some sense. Those are the options, those are not motions, that's just what I think. And so maybe now I'll hear your comment.
Well, I was just going to say the same thing. I think one of the things that's important to recognize is the history there. And the single-family homes that are there along Village Trail and some of those on 36, you know, it was always understood that we allow those lot lines and allow that because they created that part of the neighborhood Those across the street on Village Trail are also single-family homes. That made sense. But I remember having the discussion about, what was going to go in that cul-de-sac, and I remember the discussion being, well, of course they're going to stay townhomes. And I think if we have a discussion that they should be anything other than that, just doesn't fit in the neighborhood. So I was going to either table this or suggest tabling, I'm glad you brought that up, until we get more information about exactly what he wants to put there. Or the other thing to do is to suggest what you're doing, just deny it and go back to what, what the original plans are. Councilmember Nelson?
Thank you, Your Honor. If we deny it, does that not allow Mr. Jablonski to come back and ask for the same thing again after more research is done?
John?
I don't think there, I'm looking at Dan here again as well. I don't think there's any time limit that's imposed upon applications on this.
I don't think there would be for this type of use, special use permit. There might be a limitation on reapplying within 6 months, but I don't think there would be on this type of application.
Councilmember Schultz?
I'm going to make a motion to deny.
Councilmember Schultz makes a motion to deny. Is there a second to that motion? Councilmember Brox makes that motion. Councilmember Balsanic?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just as a point of information for me, since we're looking at, okay, we've got a motion to deny, but if Mr. Jablonski were to come back, could we set criteria that would be enveloped into our approval, or is that not within our purview?
To place conditions upon a vacation, I'm uncertain as to whether we would be able to do that or not.
Mayor and council member, I think we would not be able to do that. I think it would have to be a yes or no on the vacation. I don't know if looking back to the plat approval or something there may be some conditions. There may be private covenants that establish certain conditions for the structures and things like that, square footage, size, consistency among the neighborhood, but I don't think you would be able to set conditions on vacating an easement.
Then my next question is, one of the residents who spoke said that there were supposed to be some plantings and some berming and so forth. Why did that not occur?
Councilmember, I've written that down as well. I'll check into that. I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Brox?
Yes, I have family members that live on Rushmore Road, and this is a very similar situation where there was 3 townhomes together, and then later there was a part of the block that was undeveloped, and later those were developed into single-family homes. It is weird. It looks weird. It doesn't seem cohesive. My family members had a lot of the same concerns as these residents. It doesn't seem planned out. It isn't a cohesive neighborhood. So I definitely empathize and understand where they're coming from on this. And my inclination would be to deny as well.
Councilmember Alangi?
Thank you, Your Honor. A question and then probably a comment. The question is for John, and based on something you said yourself, Your Honor, in terms of like places where people can build, or developers could build single-family homes. Where is the closest geographic location of undeveloped land where a developer could put up single-family homes if they wanted to, roughly speaking?
In the
precise.
Riverwood area, there's not much within there. There's
Okay.
areas to the south that are right now outside the city limits that are guided that way, but not immediately developed, not immediately available.
So all of those empty lots that we're seeing up there
Mm-hmm.
are townhomes or some way multifamily? What are those?
Nope, I guess I was thinking I
the end
could
of the
scroll
slide
around
shows
on
what
this
it
one.
is.
Never mind. On South Point Drive here, these would be, the developer has termed them small lot townhome areas. They are detached, single family, but more of a townhome nature.
Right, sure, understood. Okay. I guess I'll echo what I heard earlier in terms of my comment, Your Honor, which is that I agree with folks that I've heard here and yourself when you say that it's always helpful whenever a developer puts forward an idea No matter how proud their history is, I think Mr. Jablonski has some wonderful developments under his belt that he can list credits to. It's always helpful to have that someone show up to explain what they have in mind. It may make it easier to approve in the future if we can, see into the thinking and get, whatever thoughts he's got and whatever plans there are, because without that sort of information, it becomes very difficult for us to act up here in ways that the developer might wish. So with that said, I support what I'm hearing now in terms of the denial.
Thank you. Councilmember Balsanic?
Thank you, Mayor. And I would encourage the homeowners association to invite Mr. Jablonski to a meeting. And, let's get it from the horse's mouth exactly what he would like to do. It sounds as though there's been informal discussions, but obviously, from what we've heard, there are, different opinions as to what one person said or the other person said. So if indeed you've got a bona fide homeowners association, call a meeting, get him there, and see exactly what he wants to do, and then give him your input, because hopefully he will listen and plug those kinds of things in to whatever it is that he would like to do. Thank you.
When the city council first took this plat up, I was a council member, I think, back in the early 2000s or whatever. And, when these townhomes were being built where the residents live today, there's an expectation that they were going to be finished. And so we take a look at the townhomes where they are, it's about 80% done. And to sit now and say, well, let's stop and let's put in a single-family lot here and finish it off, just doesn't make sense to me. That didn't occur around it. There was all open spaces, and now there's nice homes built there. But the existing cul-de-sac, which is 80% filled out, and then says, that's like painting a picture, get 80% done, and says, well, I'm going to change the whole idea and scribble on the corner. It just doesn't make sense to me, given this cul-de-sac's today's and how it exists. So I think the motion to deny this is appropriate, and hopefully, we did approve a plat for this particular, and it calls for the townhomes in there, right, John? I mean, that's today's, that's the issue, that's the issue before us too. Are we willing to change that? I think we ought to deny this and then let it be as it be. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor of the Schultz motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. It is denied. Okay, next, and the open hearing is closed. Now, I better close that too, right? All right. Next, we have comments from the audience. Is there any comments from the audience? This is just general comments. Yeah. Yeah, so, okay, 2003, so it's got some history there. Okay, thank you. Okay.
The other thing that I want to reiterate is that whole block, we were told that whole block was going to be townhomes. Well, that changed. We don't want our cul-de-sac changed.
Right.
We want it to stay.
I think that's what's the sentiment of the council tonight. Okay. Yep, thank you. Okay. Is there no further comments from the audience? Well, council, announcements. Announcements? Councilmember Vaughn.
Just FYI, I have a Red Rock Corridor meeting this Thursday at Newport City Hall at 4:30.
Okay. Thank you. Any other announcements? Okay. Seeing none, I will give you a few more. On Tuesday, tomorrow, the Arts Task Force will be meeting at 7:30 a.m. And also that the HPC that was originally scheduled to meet tomorrow has been canceled. On Monday, October 26th, the Planning Commission will have its next meeting here at Chambers. On Tuesday, October 27th, in the volunteer room, the Transit Committee, which is chaired by Councilmember Schultz, along with Councilmembers Brox and Vaughn, will be meeting at 6 p.m. To discuss transit options in the transit taxing district. So it's a very important subject matter, and wish you well in that committee meeting. That's important. Monday on November 2nd, the City Council will have its next workshop at 6 p.m. in the volunteer room. The nature of that workshop will have representatives from MnDOT present about the traffic speed studies in general, and also a policy for modifying speed limits in Minnesota and the specifics of Highway 55 here in Hastings with data and results. And so that will be before our next council meeting on Monday, November 2nd, which again, our city council meeting is scheduled to meet also that evening at 7 p.m. And then a very happy birthday to Councilmember Schultz. Your birthday is on Wednesday, the 21st. And is that your golden birthday then? Yes. I thought it was. First time I can go. Okay, sounds good. None of that power hour stuff, though. You got to wait till the next day. Today's my wedding anniversary. How many years is your wedding anniversary? 30. Wow, longer than your birthday. Now, you have a lot of explaining to do. Yeah, okay, sounds good. Council, we have no further business before us. A motion to adjourn is in order. Oh, Councilmember Balsanic.
I'm sorry, did you want to announce about the community Halloween party on the 30th?
Oh, thank you about that. Do you have more specific information? Go ahead and announce it. if you want.
It's 6 p.m.
Thank you.
It is at the high school, and the entire community is welcome. Bring some canned goods, non-perishable goods for the Hastings Family Service. And I know we're always looking for volunteers to kind of help to shepherd things as they go along. It's a great evening for the kids. I have been down there every year for the past 7 or 8 years, and very, very enjoyable. I think we've got the Minnesota Zoo coming with some animals. I may do some tricks myself, as a matter of fact, if the spirit moves me. So, okay.
And that's Friday, October 30th?
Right.
At 6 p.m. at the high school.
High school.
All right, thank you, Councilmember, very well stated. If there's no further business before the body, motion to adjourn is in order. Councilmember Brox makes a motion to adjourn, second by Councilmember Vaughn. All those in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails, and we are adjourned.